As men, especially as doctors, sometimes we hyper-focus on our career, neglecting other facets of our lives. But that is about to change. This is Dads Before Doctors. Some physicians claim their family is their top priority, but their lives tell a very different story. We'll help each other become family men who are doctors rather than doctors who have families. If it's health, wealth and legacy, emotional well-being, parenting, professional goals, or marriage, we're talking about it. Thanks for listening, and make sure to subscribe. This is Dads Before Doctors, and this is your host, Adam Broussard, MD.
Well, welcome back to the next episode of Dads Before Doctors podcast. Today we welcome Dr. Gabriel Bietz. Welcome, Gabe. How's it going?
Hey, thanks for having me, Adam. Well, I got to say it's beautiful here in San Antonio. So it's late in the spring. So I'm doing our podcast outside. So you guys are in my backyard with me, and you just can't beat the weather this time of year down in Texas. So
thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting us to your backyard. Gabe here is a real estate investor, a vascular surgeon, husband, father, and recent published author. Tell us a little bit more.
All right. Well, I would say, medicine has always been my passion, my love for taking care of patients. And I'm a board certified vascular surgeon down here. And, real estate always came natural because I was driven towards it, because if something happened to me or, I could no longer practice medicine as a surgeon, it's a labor job. I'm a well-educated blue collar laborer, and so it's physically demanding. And so that's where the real estate came in. It was always something that I could pass to my kids. And then COVID hit, and I started thinking about other stuff that I was interested in, and I didn't really have any hobbies, right? Between the two of those and raising a family, there's not much left for dads, maybe you get that half hour of TV. So I started replacing it, and I'll start from the beginning. I published the book, and if you'd like, Adam, I kind of want to just tell you the story of how I went from just the idea of it to where we are now. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would be very helpful.
All right. So like most dads, my kids, when they were really little, they're 10 and 12 now, but when they were smaller, you get home late, and part of my routine was getting them ready for bed. That was my time with my kids. And they still, even still now, they're in the same room with us, or they share a room, and because they like to do it. And human beings were pack animals. And so anyway, I would tell them bedtime stories at night. And my kids really wanted a pet when they were little. They're like 4 and 6. And we got a betta fish. We got 2 betta fish. And my kids loved them. They fed them. They learned everything that they were supposed to do about taking care of them. And so at night, I told them plenty of bedtime stories, and I'd read them books where we talk about famous, like Nobel Prize winners. I went through a whole bunch of those with them. And then finally, I just started telling them stories about them, but they were betta fish. So Arya is my daughter, and Krishna is my son. So I would tell them all these little adventures that they would go on. And that was for about 5 years. And even now they're 10 and 12, and I'm still making up stories. And I've got about 155 chapters. And a year and a half ago, I was turning 40, and my wife wanted to surprise me. And so they hired a ghostwriter, and my kids would tell them, and I had written down some of the chapters. My kids would kind of tell the ghostwriter, what the story was about, to try and put together a story. And they worked on it for a while. And then finally they realized that it didn't work out. They were happy for us to pay them, but the story itself was not. It wasn't what was advertised. And so I knew that they were disappointed. And then finally they told me about it. And I was like, I was so overwhelmed that they done that for me. I thought it was really sweet. And so instead, one weekend, I don't know, most physicians who are listening to this, everybody here has written a paper, been involved with writing papers or articles. So we're all fairly good at it. And I just sat down one weekend and wrote out the first 15 chapters, and then slowly refined it. And I'm a decent technical writer. I can write textbook stuff or book chapters, like you do in residency or medical school. I could still do that even in my early 40s. But I found myself kind of playing with it, Adam. I'd get on YouTube. I'm like, character development. How do I make this interesting? How do I describe what a forest is like?
You mean you didn't take a lot of English classes in college?
Not like this, I mean, I'm like, the first time I wrote it and then I read it and I'm like, hey, I got something going on, but all the characters sound the same. It reads like stereo instructions. Like, how do I add color to this to make it entertaining? And so then that's when it became more of a hobby. Like, I would YouTube, like, how to describe a barn in a field, like a really nice way to describe it with some depth, like what it looks like, what the smells are like, what the wind feels like, and so it became really nice. And then everybody was managing with COVID, and I know we all have our war stories with it. And at the time, it was pretty tough down here. So this book was great for me. I mean, you can have a long day and I take care of the kids. Sorry, we got a plane taking off close by. So that's what you can hear in the background. But I would come home, and if I needed to unwind, it was how I did it, and so Amitha, my wife, she saw me kind of getting into it. And then because she's so sweet, she was on Facebook, because I guess this is where we're going to find everything these days, and found a manager. And I'm like, well, what do I need a manager for? Because I'm clueless. And she's like, no, it'll help us, develop the book. And I'm like, oh, we're going to really publish this? And she's like, yeah, I think we should. And I was a little shy about it. And she's like, no. So we gave the manuscript, because it's just on a Word document at that point. It's like 54 pages of Word text, and and she managed children's books, and I think she charged, because I'm gonna include prices. Is that okay, Adam? That way, absolutely. Readers or your listeners are gonna know kind of how much I paid for it and why.
Yeah, we've had several authors, but we haven't really gotten into the details before. So this would be great.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, I'll talk about price points and kind of give you a general feel about the cost doing this, so that if people are out there, everybody's got a book in them. So if they want to do it and they want to put some real time into it, you at least kind of have a general idea of what you're going to be paying to get some good people. So anyway, the manager was about $300 a month. And we used her quite often. And at first I didn't understand why I needed a manager, but what a manager did was she read the manuscript and she's like, we need this editor, oh, it's a children's chapter book. It sounds like it's for, third graders to sixth graders. Right. And so they kind of got a feel for who your audience was. And that's where a manager really helps. So she would put me in touch with the right editor. And then the editor was, we had a couple interviews, and then we found one that was the right fit. Editor was about $650, and that was really two big edits, because they went in and they were chapter book editors. So they added they helped me with a lot of color. They didn't ghostwrite it for me, but they would say like, oh, your fish are starting in the morning in their adventure. And then the next paragraph, it's at night. And I'm like, oh, okay, I gotta fix these, it's like little things, like that you don't see in textbook writing or research writing. So like timelines and time of day, all these little fun things. And so I would work on that, and it actually helped me become a better writer, because I wasn't just paying someone to edit my book. Like, she was more like a coach, I mean, I know coach is a popular word these days. Everybody's either coaching or getting coached, or probably at the same time, which is great.
Cool.
So I guess she would be my writing coach. She helped me figure out how to have the characters have different personalities, right? And so when I started doing that, and she was very good about it, I'd email her questions and she'd help with stuff. And then after, we kind of got a final manuscript. The other thing, when I wrote the book, and I have a copy of it here, I wanted it to be fun, so I used all my family members' names. So people in the book, except for if there are goofy characters, they're fictional, because no one in the family wants to be labeled as like either the bad guy or the villain or the punchline of the joke. So I was very conscientious about that. But the fun part about it was putting in different characters. So my nieces, my nephew, my father-in-law, and I had some fun with that. Should I keep going? I feel like I'm talking a lot.
Yeah, I bet that's awesome to be able to involve, family and have them be part of the mission, and to put it out there. That's awesome.
No, it was fun. I mean, I'd call family members and I'm like, hey, you want to be in my book? And some people were like, nah, I don't know. And then now it published and they're like, they call me, hey, can I be, I want to be a character in your book. And I'm like, oh yeah, now it's real. But that was kind of fun. But no, so getting back to it. So the editor was about $650. She was great. Joanne Skye was her name. If anybody's interested in a children's chapter book. And then I think the most challenging part of it actually fell on my wife's shoulders. So Amita, I wrote it, but my wife, God bless her, she managed the whole thing. And when I mean managed it, I mean did it all. She gets all the credit. Mm-hmm. And I even wanted her on the title. I was like, listen, you need to be on the cover. You're an author. Your name should be first. And she's like, no, I want to be on the dedication page. And I bugged her, but like most husbands, I bugged her about it 3 times. And then finally, the last time she got annoyed with me. So I stopped asking.
Smart guy.
Yeah. I mean, I could send, we've been together a very long time now. And, you always kind of know, how your spouse, I always joke, you can speak spouse, what they're saying and what it means. But, but Amita was phenomenal and did all the heavy lifting after the writing. I mean, really did. We found a good illustrator. That was the most expensive part. That was about $35 a picture. We wanted a lot of pictures because it's a kid's book. So the illustrations were I think they're about between $1,500 and $1,700, worth every penny if you're going to put into it. And Amita worked with our illustrator. It worked well in the end.
How did y'all find the illustrator? Was that through one of your other resources? Or
yeah, having a manager there just helped because she would, it saved us a lot of time because we're both practicing, right? So she would go out and find someone who could be the right fit, interview a couple people, narrow it down to 2 or 3, introduce us. I mean, at that point, it was just Amita running it.
Yeah.
Vet them a little bit, go back and forth, help my wife kind of pick pictures. And you would think an illustrator would just read your book and make the pictures. No. You've got to describe to them what type of a picture you want and then send them examples. And that's it's a giant time suck, and the reason so most people are like, the next question, Adam, would really be like, well, why do I need an illustrator for any of it? I'll just hand draw my own and put them out there. Right. And, but what it was the illustrators, they put together these pictures so that you could move all the pieces around on.
Yeah. Cool.
And that was a difference. And I was like, why do we need to do that? Why the hell do I need to move all this? It's a picture.
Yeah.
And then the next step was the graphic design. And I'm like, why do we need a graphic designer? And the manager's like, no, just trust me, you need it. It's $600. No, the graphic designer is about $600. And that was, I'll be honest with you, the best money I ever spent, because they take your book and they make it a book. they take the manuscript, they take the pictures, they get the right sizes that Amazon wants for printing, and then they put it all together, and so they're the cook putting all the ingredients together to make your meal. Okay. And out pops this polished book. And our graphic designer was phenomenal. She worked with my wife and would be like, "Oh, how do you like the cover?" And our cover was completely different. And she would, and then I realized that it was important with the illustrator. She would delete parts of this picture and then add other parts, and piece it together until we were happy with it.
So was the graphic designer working with the illustrator too, or was it kind of separate?
They're completely separate. Okay. Basically, you're in the middle and you're going from first stage writing, manager looking for people, second stage editing, third stage, polishing your edits, final manuscript, illustrations, then graphic designer. Then once you've put all that together, then you're looking at Amazon in terms of Amazon's really the way to go, in my opinion. You can do many other things. And by the way, this is self-publishing. You can go to a publishing clearinghouse, and we'll talk a little bit more about that too. But if you're going to do it yourself, this is kind of the easiest way to get started. You go to Amazon, you upload everything, finalize it as a book, then you're ready to start the race. So, right? Then you put it on Amazon, then you advertise, and you learn about different categories. We were like, "Where's our book? We can't find it on Amazon." And our manager's like, "Oh, look at all these different categories. There's 100 different categories for children." And I wish Amita was here. She would be able to tell you. I'm kind of looking towards my kitchen to see if she was around, but they would, you would pick the different categories you would want your book to be in. So ours were like, "Oh, it's about fish, marine life. Oh, it's a children's adventure book. Pick that one." And you can pick 7. And then on 2 of them, we actually were number 1 for a week. It was great. After a couple weeks,
Amazon best-selling author.
Yeah, I was like, "Holy cow! We sold some books," and I'm not talking about selling them to grandma, And we were like, "What?" And Amita, because she tracks it like a hawk, and she screenshotted it and sent it to me, and it was number 1 for, I think, it was children. It was marine life. We got that one. And then I think children's adventure was another. And it was great. And I'm like, well, how many people are in this topic? You know what I mean? Because you're always hard on yourself as a physician, right? You're like, there must be, how many books are in here? 2. And, I would look it up, and there was 80 books in that category. I mean, it's not 80,000, but I was like, okay, I'll take number 1 for a week out of 80 books. That's a win.
So it sounds like y'all really embraced the who, not how, concept. Was that on purpose, or was it just kind of the luck of finding the manager and kind of plugging that in, plugging it into different things?
I think the important thing is, if you're going to do this, you always ask yourself why you're doing it. And for me, it was, my kids are getting older. I didn't want the memories to fade. I mean, just being very personal about it on your show. I really did not. I had so many nice memories. And so writing it kind of keeps it there, Will it be exactly the same? No, kids grow up, right? But I'll still have it. And my kids love it because and I'm not trying to sell books on your podcast, but they got their names on the title, And it was fun because the graphic designer was like my daughter wears glasses, right? So in the book, one of the fish wears glasses, which is it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
But I did it because that was my reasoning why. I wanted to put it out there. We were getting drilled down. Work was tough with everything going on, and I just wanted to do something really nice and good, and we had a lot of fun doing it. So that was my reason why.
So now you've got it all set up. You did Kindle Direct publishing.
We did ebook.
Okay.
We did, and then we printed copies. So We have hardback and paperback. I personally think just go with the paperback. I put it under $10 because I'm like $9.99. People take a chance for $9.99, and it's funny because how it works out. So I always tell people, like, how do you make $500 writing a book on Amazon? You spend $7,500. But that was kind of the end point is, we spent right around $7,500 to do it. And then probably a couple more $100 in advertising, just because we wanted to have fun with it, Mm-hmm. It was something my wife and I shared, and I loved that about it. And then we did an audiobook, actually. We found someone who was British with a British accent, and I think they charged us, and I'll try and send you the audiobook who narrated it. But they charged us I think $250. And wow. Amita was like, "Do you want to have an audiobook for $250?" I'm like, "Done." I was like, "Let's do it." Yeah.
That's great. And hearing it, in somebody else's voice, it's probably, real interesting from the stories that you told to your kids. How was that experience?
It sounds way better in a very sophisticated British accent than it does for me and from South Texas, So,
what did the kids think of that?
Well, they like it. I mean, it's kind of funny because I caught my daughter. She's in 7th grade now, and for everybody out there who's got middle schoolers or soon to be teenagers, it's a transition point. So at one point, she's very proud of the book. At another point, she's 12 going on 20, and so she's proud of it, but it's not exactly a public announcement at school. And then the rest of the family loves it. I got my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law, nieces, nephews, all in there with different names, based on their personalities. I'm in there. My wife's in there just to have fun. So that part was good. My son, Krishna, though, he's in 4th grade, and they're actually reading it at his school.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I'm like, wait a minute, and I didn't know. They didn't tell me that their teacher decided, because you can get, again, it's Amita. You can get, it's called a Lexi score. And so when you write a book, you can turn it in, and they will grade it for parents to help them gauge reading level. So if you see a book online, you're like, oh, I'm a parent, I got a 4th grader. What reading is this? You don't want something too easy, too hard when you're shopping. Mm-hmm. And so they'll actually grade it, and then you can put that on your book, Lexi score. So we're Lexi, and it wasn't that much. That was only $35, and so the book, we're 3 to 6th grade, which was perfect for us. So anyway, so they're reading it in this class. We donated a copy to Library of Congress. That was something you could do. Got our own ISBN number, that's fun. Anyway, it was a fun project. So
how'd y'all go about marketing it?
Well, a lot of Facebook advertising, and then we built, when I mean my wife and the manager built a website, just a simple front page on Wix, where you can buy direct, and that's betafishadventures.com. So people can go there and check it out. It's kind of weird trying to talk about yourself, so it was nice having Amita involved, because she would find a picture of me and put about the author. And I'll be honest with you, it kind of made me uncomfortable because I'm like, it's just, it's definitely a different side of me, and then actually, Adam, the funny part about it was, so after this happened, about a month later, I'm in private practice. One of my partners walks in, and he's like, "Is this you?" And he shows me a picture on Amazon. And I'm like, "I don't know, buy my book." He's like, "When have you been doing this?" And I was like, and the whole project, start to finish, because you're working and you're tired and you're trying to steal time when you can. Realistically, it was about a year, and that doesn't mean you're chipping away at it. Some days you knock out a bunch of stuff, then you're putting it down for 2 weeks and you're picking it back up, just like anything else in life when you're trying to manage a family and a career. But they kind of had fun with me about it a little bit. And then finally at the end, I'm just like, "Dude, I know you're jealous. There's a book in everybody."
Yeah.
And he's like, kind of a little bit. He's like, I'm surprised you pulled it off. I was like, well,
yeah, I actually was on a call probably about a year ago with a friend, and he challenged me to write one in the next 3 years. So
really?
I'm down to 2 years. I don't know what I'm going to write about, but he said he's coming to the launch party.
Well, it depends on what you want to do. I think, well, here, let's talk about you. If you were going to write a book, Adam, what would you write about?
I really have no idea. So it was actually someone who has become a friend that I met on the call, and just talking to him about, I guess, my journey, the fact that, I was a physician, that I did coaching, that, getting involved in real estate at the time. I think there's a lot of people that are meeting that also, but he's like, well, you should write a book. It's like, oh, okay. He's like, in 3 years, I'm coming to meet you. We're going to go to dinner, because randomly his daughter lived in New Orleans too. So he's like, I'm going to be in town to meet my daughter, and we're going to go to dinner. And I want a copy of the book that night. So.
Dang. Well, I mean, I'll tell you what, so I'm going to take you down kind of 3 different paths. Okay. Or 4. So I'm just going to use you as an example for all your listeners. So you could put together a manuscript, go to Amazon Publishing, set it all up yourself. They have book cover generators, and put your book out there. You do all the stuff that I did. You don't have to have that. Mm-hmm. Ours, it just kind of evolved, how far do you want to chase a rabbit down the hole type deal, with having a lot of help. But what it did for me is when I paid that money out, I got it done. You know what I mean? So you can start with just putting something out there. Amazon will take care of it for you. Pretty minimal fees. They'll give you your price points. They'll review it, and then you're done. Right. The next step is something like I did, where you're still writing the book, you're doing all the work, you're putting it together. You have a team. The manager was huge to help us. Her name's April Cox. For anybody who's out there, you can find her on Facebook. April Cox. You can mention my name. I don't have an incentive at all. I just think she's a really sweet woman, and kind of has a grandma-like feel, and is really good with kids' books, and she's an author herself. Then you can get into like the higher level stuff where you have a professional ghostwriter. They're working with you. They're putting it together, professional advertising. And then that's when it starts. You're going to pay more for that. Mm-hmm. You're going to start, I would say between 15 and 100K, 15,000 at the entry level, 100K being pretty much going all out. And then if you're someone at a very high level, like Ray Dalio, when he put out all of his books like Principles, and I think that he had probably some amazing editors, an amazing team. You can tell that he wrote a lot of it. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And did an amazing job, but just had this it's a beautiful book. Once you get into this space, you can tell. Robert Kiyosaki's another great author. They put so much into their books, and you really respect that. When you start tapping into this universe. So, but and then I would say it was a good experience. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to write another one. So
what's next?
I'm going to write. So I have so in total for all of Arya and Krishna Beta Fish, I got a lot of chapters over the years, and so I'm going to I'll write a second book for fun. I hope I sell some copies. If I do, great, and super happy about it. But it's a lot for family. It's family focused. Mm-hmm. And then maybe I've been in real estate a long time now, about 15 years. I'm pretty proud of that. So I'll probably put together a real estate book, coming down the pipeline too. Got some ideas there. But there's a book in anybody, and I'm happy to, if people are curious about it, I'm happy to share all the information and my experience with them. So,
I think, using your path of the book, like finding those people to assist with, the timeline, really shrinks when you find someone that has the experience. Like
it's huge. Yes.
you've been, performing surgery for years, but like you've never illustrated a kid's book. You've never, edited this. So you can go to YouTube University and learn about these things and, spend hours on hours on hours of your precious time between that when you're not at the hospital, time that you could have, spent with the family. Or you could, it sounds like all of the help you had was very reasonably priced and most likely well under your hourly rate.
Yeah.
So I think we as physicians think we need to do it all ourselves.
Absolutely.
But the amount of time you saved, more than made up for the small cost that you spent on it.
Absolutely. It's a fun project, and but you're exactly right, Adam. If you think about a hospital, we just have armies and armies of people there. If you have your own, if you're out there, a listener here, and you run your own practice, you have all of this, staff and help and assistance when you're in the healthcare field. And then, it's kind of interesting when you get outside that and you start tinkering around, all of a sudden, it's natural that we always want to do stuff ourselves. But I think finding people and just spending a little bit of time to get a system set up like you would anything else, it made all the difference in the world, because then I finished it. It could have otherwise it'd still be sitting on my computer, but with deadlines and having meetings and, and having assistants, they do stuff that, like, exactly like you said, I would tinker around with it for way too long. Mm-hmm. And better to hire it out. Doesn't mean it's any more or less me that did it, but certainly it helps, and you become a better writer, like I know how it works now, which is kind of fun too.
And I know, no doubt your experience in real estate was probably similar. You're probably not out there fixing the toilets and the drywall and whatever else. Like you know what your time is worth.
Same thing. A long time ago, between med school breaks and summers, I was a construction worker. And so being in real estate and knowing how much things cost and what labor costs and materials cost is important. But yeah, and it starts off slow, right? Mm-hmm. Real estate, start off investing with somebody else, learn it, read about it, grow. And you expand.
So how did you get involved in real estate so early? You said you were in med school when you started?
No, well, we originally, so Meetha and I got married. I was a year ahead of her. And so I was starting my second year and it was her first year. And so we both wanted mailbox money. And her side of the family has always been in multifamily, her father. And so those were my talks. Like, I have a very good relationship even before we were married with my father-in-law. And he's always like, you got to get involved. And he would go on and he's like, I know you guys are physicians, but I'm telling you, just hear me out. And I listened, and I drank the Kool-Aid, and my wife did too. And so then just to keep it short, our first investment was, he called me and he's like, hey, we got this great deal. We're buying, I think it was like, what was it? It was over a 300 unit deal. It was his, he's general partner. And he was getting started in Houston. I think it was his second or third one. And he's like, you guys got to invest with us. And I was like, okay. I didn't even think about it. You know what I mean? At that time, it was $25,000 minimum investment, and then the rest is kind of history. When we came through residency, 2008 hit, and then just kept going and going and going. And then after that, you get comfortable with it, and then you start doing your own projects.
Awesome. Well, what's the number one advice you would give for someone that has identified what that book is in them? Where do they start?
Where would they start? I would say start searching either on Google or Facebook, looking for different managers. Like, you can have a publishing manager, It's called Self-Publishing Manager. You can check out April Cox. That's who I use. Now she does children's books, but certainly she can put you in touch with someone who's a manager. There are other companies out there that are a little bit more established. Price points are going to be a little bit higher because they're proper company. I think Bonnie Koo talks a little bit about it in LGA. But that's where I'd start. I'd start with the manager to start putting it together. And then I would start writing down your ideas, putting down kind of your chapters. After chapters, your subheading. So, and then the other question is ask yourself why you want to write it. So that's the other question. Are you doing it because you think you're going to make a bunch of money and you're going to be the next Tony Robbins and you're going to go out there and sell, or are you doing it for more like me where it's more of a family thing and I'm protecting memories, or at least I think I'm protecting memories that I don't want to fade. So ask yourself why you're doing it, or are you building another business? Like Adam, you could do a podcast book, how to start a podcast, and share all your experiences, and then that becomes you're now an authority in a different field. So if you want to become an authority in a different field, I think that's also good for people who are looking to write a book.
Yeah, I think building a brand and becoming an authority are real big topics right now with some of the books coming out. And I think it is from what I know of other authors and listening and talking to different people, I think the average book sells less than a few hundred copies. So I think going into it, like having knowledge of why you're doing it and being okay with, what the results will be is setting those expectations. Because you can absolutely blow it out and like hire that, big time, publishing and marketing and, doing all these launch committees and stuff like that. So
exactly. And I mean, you got to remember too, the beauty of writing a book is it's out there for forever, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I think everybody's heard of, how to win friends and influence people, or Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or, these books, they were written like, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it's been around for decades, it still sells. Mm-hmm. There's still a whole nother generation that discovers that book and says, oh my God, I need to do this. I need to invest. What's going on with me? And so I think that, people should have a very long horizon after they write it. Don't write it, put it out there, get frustrated or distracted with something else and let it fade. You just got to check on it every couple of months, boost it up, talk about it a little bit, and let it grow for a little while.
I know how Elrod talks about how his goal with the Miracle Morning was to sell 1 million copies.
Yeah. And
I think his first year he sold like 1,300 copies or a very small amount. And I think it took 6 years, but he did it. And now he's got 14 different books or, community and all kinds of stuff. So
exactly. I mean, I think that, persistence is the number one thing. I mean, in anything that we choose to do, if you're persistent and you throw some time and energy at it, it doesn't have to be all the time, but it pays off, and one, even if you have some setbacks or one doesn't work out, if you keep trying, you'll learn stuff from it and find another way or a different brand or a new idea and apply those experiences to it.
Yeah. And I think learning from the failures or setbacks or whatever you want to call it.
Greatest teacher.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if everything went right, you're not going to learn a whole lot.
Yeah. And
there's not somebody on the other end of the scalpel that might die when you write a book. You just have to write another book.
Yeah, you just got to write another. Like my editor, the first time I sent it in, she was like, the whole thing is, on the, like if you use like Microsoft Word, there was just comments, changes, edits, and you're just like, all right, let's get into it, So, but yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, no one's, it's not like I have an emergency book problem, So that's kind of one of the other nice things about it. And don't forget, a lot of the people who are listening to your show are parents, and this holds true for pretty much everything that I do. Is just like you, Adam. If you want to learn something new, you're not just learning it for you, but think about, you can pass it on to your kids. Now you have a new skill that you can show them. They see, like I know I'm using your podcast as an example, but they see you doing your podcast. They hear what you're doing. They see the equipment. Like for me, like writing the book, like my daughter started writing in school, and actually personally, I think she's a better writer than I am at 7th grade. Certainly better start. And, so parent, your kids see you doing this stuff, and it's another thing you can pass on to them. Mm-hmm. And in another way, it's showing them, look, you're not going to be just one thing in life. You can wear a lot of hats.
Exactly.
It's just that first thing that you pick, you got to be able to self-sustain with it. You got to be able to support yourself, everything else. The first one's got to be important. Then you can do a bunch of stuff. You can wear a lot of hats in life. You don't just have to be one thing. So. Well,
and you leave that legacy. You like you said, that book's out there forever. So your kids can be giving it to their grandkids when they're reading them bedtime stories. And
yeah, if I'm still around, I have grandkids, then definitely I'll put another one out there. So yeah, but it's fun for me. But that's my why. I think those that want to write a book, find the why of why you want to do it, and that'll really help not only motivate you, but put your goals in the right column.
Awesome. Well, how can the listeners connect with you? Where can we find the book? And
sure,
how can we support you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so you can find here. I got to do like my infomercial, right? So you can find Arya and Krishna Betta Fish. And you can find it on Amazon. It's The Adventures of Arya and Krishna Betta Fish. And I am the author, Gabriel Bietz. And my name is kind of spelled funny, so it's Bietz. But it's on Amazon for sale for $9.99. And then if people want to reach out, I did leave my email address in the comments. And then, of course, you can always, I'm all over Facebook now. That I discovered LGA, and I discovered all these other physicians doing amazing things out there. And that was just this whole new world. So now I'm on it all the time. So those are pretty easy places to find me.
Well, wonderful. Gabe, really appreciate you joining us. Everyone listening, go find your story inside and get writing.
Yeah, support. If you do buy a copy, please leave me a good review. If you have some comments about it, you can email them to me, but, I hope people enjoy reading it as much as I enjoyed writing it. I tried to make it as entertaining as I could. So
awesome. Well, can't wait to share it with my kids.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that.
Thanks for joining us.
You've been listening to the Dads Before Doctors podcast. Family men who are doctors rather than doctors who have families. In an evolving and ever fast-paced world, we cannot lose sight of our real priorities. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had fun. Make sure to like, rate, and review. And tell a friend about the show. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from the show. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit the website at dadsbeforedoctors.com. Questions, comments, suggestions? Email Adam at dadsbeforedoctors.com. And find us on Facebook and Instagram at Dads Before Doctors. Remember, the host of this show is not your doctor, your coach, or your financial advisor. This show is strictly for entertainment. Till next time, this is Dads Before Doctors, signing off.